I'm a big fan of sponge filters. Sponge filters are easy to set up, pretty maintenance free, and once you get them set up right, welcome to the Tye-Dyed Iguana, guys. I'm Eric, and I'm here to talk to you about some kind of basic axolotl care and the best way to kind of get those guys set up. So axolotls generally get somewhere between about 7 to 14 inches. So a 20 gallon is really what you want to minimum do. Some people may start a little bit smaller to get them started, but if you're already running through the time of getting the tank cycled, there's no reason to start smaller, just might as well go with what they need. Axolotls do live roughly about 10 to 15 years, so it is a commitment to definitely take care of. Here we do recommend minimum size tank of about a 20 gallon. Now, personally on filtration, I'm a big fan of sponge filters. Sponge filters are easy to set up, pretty maintenance free, and once you get them set up right, they do work well for you for a long period of time. Downside is they can also take a long period of time to get set up. They do take a little bit longer to get that biological load built in there, but like I said, once they're going, they are pretty well bulletproof. Now, another option a lot of customers like to go with is something like this tidal filter, where it actually has an adjustable flow rate. With axolotls, you don't want a strong flow rate for them. It stresses them out, kind of blows them around the tank, and causes a lot of issues in that. The nice part with a filter here like the Tidal is it does have a canister that you can actually run multiple different types of media, whatever works best for your situation. It has your sponge in there that's actually going to collect the debris. It has your biological media for beneficial bacteria. And then you have the option of running things like carbon or Purigen or any other absorbent media that you want in there to actually help remove waste. When setting that up, after you actually get your filtration situated, I like to kind of look at what we're going to do for the bottom of the tank. Substrates with axolotls can be kind of controversial. When you're starting with a baby, definitely recommend going with a bare bottom so you don't have to worry about any issues of impaction. Once those guys do get a little bit larger, I would say, that 5-6 inch range, some people will actually opt to put in things like sand or leave it bare bottom, slate bottom, different types of tile bottom, something that just works best for you and is going to be healthy for the animal. Now, a lot of people do like to do live plants in with their axolotl to help remove some of the waste, in which case sand might be a great option for burying some of those plants in there. Or you could go with plants like Java fern, Java moss, and Anubias, which actually don't have to be buried. Those are all great options however you want to. Floating plants are also a great option for your axolotl. One, because they're going to pull out a lot of waste out of your tank. They do grow very rapidly, so that is going to help kind of cover that. And it's going to block out a lot of the light, since axolotls don't like actually a lot of light in their tank, which may not be beneficial to you because you don't get to see it as well, but it's going to make the axolotl definitely happier. So speaking of those live plants, axolotls don't require light, but if you are going with live plants, you will need that on there. Just remember that those lights need to be kind of dim, nothing too intense. So that's where like some of the Anubias, Java fern, and things like that work really well because they don't need the intense light that a lot of your other plants do. So next, now that we know what we're kind of doing in the tank itself, we need to fill the tank with water. Now, Seachem has recently come out with some great products that actually help you get the proper environment for your axolotl. The first one here is actually going to be your axolotl conditioner. This is going to not only remove your chlorine and chloramine, but it's going to detoxify the ammonia that can be toxic for your axolotl. Great little product to kind of add in. I'm glad they actually came out with that. And then they also came out with the axolotl buffer that actually gets your pH set right where you need it, right in that 7.4 to 7.6 range. The next thing adding in there to just get stuff to start breaking down that waste in there is actually going to be something like stability, any of your bacterial starters. The bacteria that's in there is going to just help break down that waste, transfer it through for your ammonia or your nitrogen cycle, and make it where your animal's not swimming in its own waste. Speaking of swimming in its own waste though, one product that I actually use on all of my axolotls at home is actually remediation. Now, remediation is an enzyme and a bacteria, but what it actually does is breaks down any solid waste and allows that filter to take it up a lot faster. I definitely run that in all of mine. Pretty easy to dose. You can start it, dose it once initially, and then you kind of just do anytime you're doing your water changes, your filter cleans, things like that. Next thing is really making sure that we have that temperature right. Now, I've heard a lot of different temperature ranges for axolotls. A pretty common one is people keeping it around that 64 range. I've heard from 60 to 64 is ideal. 64 to 70 is definitely fine. It is a little bit easier to maintain, but if you can't get it to stay under like 75, that's when you need to do something that's a little bit different. Open tops work great on the tank because the evaporation helps cool it. That's kind of your easiest go-to if you're just a couple degrees too warm. Next is kind of mounting a fan where it actually blows across the surface of the water to lower those temperatures. And last is probably your most expensive option, but that's going to be getting something like a chiller. There's a lot of different styles of chillers that you can get. A chiller is essentially a mini refrigeration unit that you pump the water through and cool it back down and get you kind of where you need to be. After that, primarily you're looking at your different types of food. Once you actually get that axolotl in and everything's set up, there are a couple different styles of food that people like to go with. I kind of personally switch between, actually at home and here, we switch between some different frozen foods and some different prepared foods. ZooMed has a really great axolotl and newt food that works really well. That's what we feed as a big portion of our diet here. And then we also supplement with things like mysis shrimp, which are a little bit higher in protein, help bulk those guys up. And we'll also do some treats of bloodworms on occasion. Other than that though, your babies, they do need to be fed pretty well daily up until they're juveniles. And I usually do that up till about 4 inches or so. After that then, you know, with your adults, you can pretty well do every other day. Some people also like to supplement with things like chopped night crawlers or whole night crawlers, depending on the size of your axolotl. And then there are kind of a lot of different options that I've seen some people use, but those are kind of the main ones that are really beneficial for those guys. Daily care for an axolotl mainly is just the feeding, depending on the age. Now, personally, I like to use kind of one of our beta waste removers and suck out any of the excess feces if I notice anything in there, or any leftover food, maybe with a net, or even the beta waste remover as well. But you just don't want any of that kind of laying in there rotting and messing with your water parameters. But really all you're looking at doing other than that is feeding either daily to every other day. I recommend at least a 10 to 20% water change once a week, just to make sure that water stays nice and clean for your axolotl. So that's pretty well some of the basics on axolotl care and maintenance. So if you guys do have any questions, definitely send us a message, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help you out with your axolotl. Have a good night, guys.